what a great guy. I just had such a great conversation with him. And what was it about him you wanted him to do this project with you, and how did that come about?
Well, I've known Alfonso Cuarón for a number of years and have wanted to work with him since Little Princess. He is an incredible director, an amazing storyteller, and every movie he's done proves that out. And he called us and said he had an idea for a TV show, and he pitched Believe. And it was an obvious thing to be passionate and aggressive about, because not only was it him, but it was a story that felt incredibly potent and entertaining and emotional, and that was very much Alfonso's specialty.
What was it about this? Because I love it, and I told everyone on the line today, it's just how unique it is. And I mean, I cover so much in television, and when you kind of find an idea that's like, oh, it's really refreshing, it hasn't been done. What was it about this that made you want to do a series instead of making a 2-hour movie?
Well, I think that, every story on some level has familiar elements, and I think that the thing about this was it felt like, this idea of someone with some kind of power going through the world and touching the lives of people who were strangers and new to them and in desperate straits didn't feel necessarily like the most original idea, in that regard. What felt incredibly original was the relationship between this father and this daughter. And that really was the core of the show, that it was a story of parenting a kid who was incredibly special. And I think that anyone who's a parent knows that their kid is incredibly special. And sometimes there are challenges in ways you don't expect. Other times it's the sort of glorious ease of a kid who just is kind of a wonderful spirit, and but there's always something that's special. And it felt to me like a wonderful allegory that this very specific kind of genre show was really telling a story that was very relatable about what it is to raise a child.
And where do you see it going, and how do you see it growing? Because obviously, if you did a movie, it starts, it ends, and this is just going to be something that's ongoing.
Well, I think that one of the challenges of the show was, from the beginning, finding the week-to-week of it all. And I think that from the beginning, when Alfonso pitched the idea, he was talking about the baddies and the goodies and the sort of the groups that were in opposition. And I think that what's been wonderful in finally finding not just the right story, but the right showrunner to be doing the show, is that we've found a way to keep alive that tension between these two forces. And I think week to week you'll get not only that kind of tension and that kind of the sort of thriller aspect of the show, but you also get, I think, a very sweet. You want to do that again because of the? I'll just come in the middle of it. But I think what you get from the show is not only the thriller aspect of the show, but also the week to week of crossing paths with very relatable, ordinary people in very desperate situations, and seeing how these two, especially this young girl and who she is, deal with them.
Supernatural and mythology and all these words come to mind. But at the same time, there's a balance here of being very grounded and being very realistic, and there's a balance there. And talk about that. I think that's.
Well, I think that the best stories, for me, the best genre stories are stories that have genre elements, but are mostly grounded and relatable. I think that when things start to get too fantastical and out there, it becomes harder to connect with the story because the whole thing feels like it's got no rules and it's just sort of out there in the world, floating around. And Believe is, I think, very firmly rooted in a relatable father and daughter story. They're on the road, and they're on the road for very specific reasons. And if they do slow down and do stop, both of them could be in real trouble. But they're working for good and against evil in a way that I think feels very unique for television.
Nice. And let's talk about the title. I know you come up with the title Believe. Why and what went into that to come up with that?
The title really felt, it's funny because we were going in to pitch the show, and it just, it felt like it was what the show was about this kid learning to believe that she is connected to more than sort of going foster home to foster home. She's someone who doesn't really have a connection yet with people, and this is a story about a guy who is about to lose his life on death row and has nothing really to believe in and has far more problems than anything else. And the story felt like it was about these two having to believe in each other, certainly this guy has to believe in something far more than what we know to be our reality, that there's something sort of greater than us. And this girl needs to sort of believe in herself and come to terms with what she's capable of and what her power is. So it just felt like a name that felt applicable to all the themes we were telling anyway.
What is it that you want to bring into it as far as, I mean, people's faith and their beliefs, it's important, it's deep rooted in people's, you know, in their daily lives. And what is it important to you to kind of, I don't know, walk that line of bringing that to people in people's living rooms to connect with them?
I mean, obviously, we all have our own faith, and spirituality, I think, is, even for people who aren't religious, people who have a deep spirituality and a sense of what the world is and what's beyond what we can see. And I think that there's something that storytelling, whether it's a book or a film or a show or a song, I mean, when something seems to present possibility and that sense of sort of unlimited potential of what the world can be, it's a very inspiring feeling. And that's something that we try to do with Believe.
Has anything extraordinary ever happened to you, or is this something that's kind of going, you know, off the top of your head, and as far as creativity?
Well, it's funny. I've always felt sort of romantic about the world, and my favorite stories are love stories. Clearly, in this case, in Believe, the love story is between a father and a daughter who, at the beginning of the show, are complete strangers. And I think that, you know, while I can remember the time I met the woman who's now my wife, and that feeling of just profound, you know, knowing that this was someone who, you know, that love at first sight thing, that seems like a fantasy, but when it happens to you, you can't deny that. You know, my wife didn't have the same experience, by the way, but she did see a ghost once, so she has her own version.
So she can help out with the storyline. She can give you the supernatural tips there.
My thing is, oh my God, I fell in love with Katie. Here's his, like, I saw a ghost. That's sort of definition of our relationship.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And just like I was telling you, just the uniqueness and how it stands out from everything else, and you and everybody I've talked to is like, it's like a mini movie every week for you. And what do you want to do to kind of set it apart from other things that on television right now?
You mean visually? Wait.
Yeah, just the story, visually, something that makes it people go, you know what, that's different. I want to watch it.
I think that that every show is defined by the characters. I mean, the reality of doing television is that you're going to have certain limits. I think that television is, in many ways, in terms of storytelling, characters, in some cases, visuals, exceeding what you're seeing in film nowadays, in the cinema. I do think that the thing that will make Believe special on an ongoing basis will be the relationship between the main characters and the sort of slowly unfolding story of Orchestra, which is this organization that Johnny's character was a part of. And I think that when you get to learn more about Bo and what her history is, and you see what the stakes are about, you know, why they want her and what that's about, I think that feels very special and unique to me as well. But no matter what you do with the intrigue and the week-to-week people that we meet who are kind of, you know, the strangers whose lives are affected in various ways by our characters, the core is always going to be the relationship between Bo and Tate.
Let's talk about those two, and just casting-wise, and Johnny for Bo, and I talked to them obviously out there, and Jake. Mm-hmm. What was it about them? Because I mean, obviously, casting is, I would think, daunting. Mm-hmm. And what was it about them that?
Well, you know, the key to any casting situation is you want an actor who elevates the role, who takes the opportunity and makes it not just their own, but something that you didn't even expect. And I've been very lucky to have that happen on a number of occasions. And when Johnny came in, it was clear that she was one of those situations. Very young, but incredibly wise, and obviously born to do this. I mean, she's just very gifted. She's accessible. You feel this sort of authentic quality, especially with young actors. It's so hard to find that. A lot of times they come in and they're kind of cloying and pushing it and phony. she's wildly grounded, wildly authentic, and you know, beautiful and sweet, and just you really believe her. Not to use the title of the show shamelessly. I think with Jake, I mean, he's just got a real sort of sympathy, a kind of sympathetic quality. He's tough. You believe this is a guy you might find on death row in real trouble, but he also has this incredible sort of accessibility and sweetness, and that to me was a huge win for Tate. So.
He was ridiculously nice. I mean, thanking me. I'm thanking him. He's like, no, thank you. No, yeah.
No, he's a very, very sweet guy, yeah. And that's another wonderful thing. I gotta say that the entire writing staff of this show and the cast, it really has become faster than I've seen in other shows that I've worked on. Such a family. Like, it's an incredible thing to see how quickly everyone clicked in a way that felt meaningful.
Yeah, she really counts on him like a big brother.